This is a open mic adjacent podcast. We could further define it, but I think that would limit our conversation. So that's what we're going to say, or that's what I'm going to say for now. Justine was kind enough to... This is Justine.
They can't see you.
I know. I'm going to do this anyway because it helps me.
Okay.
This is Justine. Introduce yourself, ma'am.
My name's Justine.
Okay. And Aaron Bacafer is with us as well.
I don't have a last name.
I was going to... is it Del Toro Walgren or Walgren
It's
Del Toro?
Walgren Del Toro.
Walgren Del Toro.
My last name's after. My last name
Gotcha.
is, the
Gotcha.
dominant one.
Okay, cool. That makes sense. And I don't mean that in any sort of negative way towards John. I think it just like when I meet
better.
you guys... Honestly, but it works like...
Yeah, because if you try to say like Justine Del Toro Walgren, first of all, the O and the W are like worst enemies in your mouth. Like try to say an O Wal.
Love how much thought went into this. This makes me so happy.
that it was like a 2-second process. I was like Del Toro, Walgren Del Toro. It just sounds better.
Never would have considered it.
And
That's
then
amazing.
and then it makes John sound like he's brown, and so.
Ulterior motives.
So
are important.
everyone's surprised when they meet us.
That's awesome. It's a good conversation starter, I guess.
This is John. He is white.
I am the Del Toro.
Contrary to popular belief.
It's hilarious.
Oh, man, it's funny.
You were listening to the Who's Next SATX podcast. Special thanks go out to Dulce Sueños Coffee, located at 1904 Fredericksburg Road, for letting us use their space to record this episode. We would also like to thank Nick Spiker of Spiker Studios for editing our conversation today.
So for me, Justine helped me figure out that for me, this podcast is going to be about promoting San Antonio open mics, kind of maintaining a positive narrative, and I'll get more onto that later. And occasionally spotlight people who attend them, hosts, and other things adjacent to open mics. I think open mics are an important tool for writers who've been going for a long time, whether it be comedy or poetry or songs. I think it's important that people have a place to work out their material. And I think it's even more important for young artists to have a place, especially now with technology isolating everybody, that they have a place to work out stage fright and get used to being on stage. And however that presents it, whether it's, shakes or full-on fear or anxiety in any sort, just like work that out in a safe space, pardon the phrase, at a place where other people are doing the same thing. And maybe they'll learn from people, maybe they won't. But I think that, it's important that people know that these things are out here. And I know that's silly for somebody who's like, I'm 39 years old. I'm Josh, by the way. I'm 39 years old, and open mics were how I started writing. That's how I started working out my stuff and trying to figure out who I was writing for and get my voice on stage, how I'm going to present myself. They've been really important to me, and shockingly enough, I find more and more people as we get going through the years don't know about them, period, which is kind of crazy to me. And so that's what we're doing. We're just, that's what I'm doing. Aaron, why are you here with me? Why are you interested in this topic? Why are open mics important to you?
I mean, you know just as well as I do that we met at an open mic. I was in the middle of trying to express.
I actually didn't know that.
You didn't know that? No way. But, I was in the middle of some really hard times in my life, and I really wanted to figure out where my music was going, kind of like the way you stepped into open mics. And I needed to know if I was doing this for myself or if I needed some type of thing from other people for them to see my music, or if it was just for me. And you helped me realize it was both, and also just enjoying and collaborating with other people was more important than being selfish with my music. And that was important when it came to open mics for me. Like, it made me become less selfish. It made me be more self-aware of the people around me. In general, it helped me a lot with where I've come to today, just from meeting you and from being more exposed to people. I've known to get sucked into agoraphobia pretty easily. But, open mics have helped me get out of my box and helped me get to kind of where I am now and where I want to push myself musically.
Okay, cool. And Justine, why are you here personally? And be as honest as you want.
And you were a host.
I had a gap between vet appointments today. Mm-hmm. So I'm here.
That's the whole thing.
Okay. I was also told that there was going to be coffee available to us, and that was a lie. That turned out to
that's
not
a lie.
be true.
I warned you guys to come caffeinate.
Okay, but I didn't see that message. Just like
you
you didn't see the message where I
I'm
said
so
just parked,
sorry.
and then I'm like calling you. I called you like 3 times trying to figure out where.
Now I feel
this
bad. I
place
thought
was.
that at 9 o'clock I was like, let me shoot this text.
Yeah, but I was in the middle of a vet appointment.
Yeah.
I was at the beginning of a vet
Should have just
appointment.
texted me and be like, Aaron, you're going to be late.
sounds
Bring
like
us
we-
coffee right now.
Yeah.
We have the same problem. It sounds like we have the same problem.
But yeah, I got into open mic because the place I worked at had an open mic, and the host was going to China. And so they needed somebody to host, and they're like, you do music, you host it. It's like, okay.
I just want to point out real quick before you finish that I've been going to open mics. I told you before I'm 39 years old. I've been going to open mics for 25 years. And you're like one of the best hosts I ever saw. And I find it hilarious that that's what you were doing there, that you had no idea.
That was the most wholesome story
like,
I have ever heard for why you wanted to host it.
Anyway,
Yeah,
unpause, finish.
It just happened. No. It just it was just like most things, most of my jobs, it just like they needed someone to do something. And I was like, I guess I could do it.
There's motivational speech for the
yeah.
world. Justine Del Toro, 2023. I guess I could do it.
We just need to get her a
Yeah.
bumper sticker that says Jack of all trades unwillingly.
Reluctantly, yeah.
Reluctantly is more accurate.
Reluctantly.
Okay. Well, we skipped this part, and maybe it'll be worth it. Maybe it won't. Aaron, who are you? Like, what's your name? How did you get started in music?
I am the alcohol of coffee and alcohol. I've been writing since I was 13, horribly. Writing decently now as an adult. But yeah, I mean, I got into music because when I was younger, I really wanted to play guitar. And I didn't think I had a voice. And my dad was really awesome and was like, have you heard rock music? No one can sing. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, yeah, none of these people can sing. They don't have good voices. They just made it work. And I was like, that's actually really cool advice. And so I started singing and stuff. And I always thought my voice was horrible. But, once I got older, I guess I kind of found, where my voice lies. I feel like with some people, if you don't have a good expression of what your voice is or what your voice sounds like, it takes a long time to find it,
I would not disagree. I would add that creativity is a little bit like invention, right? Like necessity is the mother of invention, and some people want to create. And because they start on their own and are not trained, they can create with a smaller alphabet, so to speak. So the creative part of it is pushed super hard, super early because of the limited access to quote unquote vocab. And in your case, I love that comes out in your voice being yours. Like the second I heard you sing, it was apparent that you were not trying to sound like anyone, which is so rare because in the choral world, and I know enough to be dangerous, so I understand that I might be speaking completely wrong, and Justine is here to put me in my place because she knows a lot more about that than I do. But and actually Bree is in the other room and she could totally put me down because that's was her life for a long time. But you're given the skills to do everything that your voice can do. You're trained and your muscles are developed so you can do so many things. So it seems from the people I've met, it's harder for people to find their own voice in a creative sense in the choral world because they can do everything. And the fact that you had your range that is what it is when you haven't worked on it. And so the thing that you focused on, or it sounded like, was being open. And the second I heard you sing, You had that, like, whatever your range is, and the songs that you sang and the chords that you knew, and the songs were great and they sounded like you. And I would say that a lot of people, and this is not a hard and fast rule, there are exceptions everywhere, especially in this, but your music was so great because of your limitations. So it made you work out your creativity so quickly, because the fact that you were be able to create like 11 great songs, in my opinion, with 5 chords in 3 different keys with melodies that were largely pentatonic, and they were fantastic. And it was just immediately that, like, you already had a handle. And so many people's journey is opposite. They go and they get all these skills and all this ability that they're either trained or whatever their motivation is, and however their tools are to get that, they get everything that they can. And then they come to the spot and they're like, oh crap, I can do anything. What do I want to sound like? You know what I mean? Where you were like me and you, our trajectory was more like, oh, I can only do 2 or 3 things. Let me find my sound within this thing, and then add vocabulary to that. I don't think there's a better or a worse. I think it's different, and that's why music is great, because art is great in general, because you hear everybody's journey with what they create. But I really appreciated that about you, how you found, for me, like I was imitating like rock singers for the first 5 years. And when I heard you, I didn't hear any of that. And that was like the opposite that I latched onto. I was like, I love that you were kind of in the beginning of your journey and you were not imitating already. And that made me so happy. Sorry, go. I apologize.
You know how many like pin clicks you're going to have to edit out of this?
I'm not going to edit them out. People are just going to be like,
what is he doing?
Yeah. The pin is down.
So Justine,
like a silent.
How did you find your voice? Was it something?
Hang on. Let's go further. And Justine, who are you?
We got your
name. We got your name. Like,
yes.
Who are you?
I don't know. Whoever anyone needs me to be. It's usually how it goes.
So people who answer the question like that honestly are always super useful, integral parts of a community. And like, she means that. And I didn't really see the fruit of that labor until I went to her wedding and saw all these people that were a part of your community, of the San Antonio community, talking about, like, even the guy in the band. What's his name?
The guy in the band.
The guy in the band, bald guy in the amazing band that you had at your wedding.
I forgot his name. I know Alyssa because I mostly talk to Alyssa.
Okay, find out his name and I'll edit it in. We'll just snap it in there so he doesn't.
That guy from the band. Mike.
Josh trying to sound like Justine.
I think it might be Mike, actually.
But when he was talking, it was just a lot of that. A lot of people in very different parts of the community who had stories about you throughout the night. And he had that one on the mic. And it was just like, when you're like, I'm down to do whatever you need me to do, this is what happens after years of doing it. It was very cool to see the fruit of your labor. It was just this, I mean, they're your friends, they're real friends, but what the caveat to that is that's her network, but they're real friends and they're people that really have her back. And she built that just by saying yes to people who asked her to do things, which is incredible to see the fruit of just the attitude of, yeah, I'll do it. Anyway, sorry.
They're mostly John's friends. everybody that was my friend first was in the wedding party. And Tammy as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah. My side was mostly family and some friends, and John's side was mostly friends and some family.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We're very different in that regard. But yeah, I grew up, I'm from San Antonio. I grew up with parents who, one of them is like an ex-choir student. My dad used to do choir in high school because his parents didn't let him play football. And my mom played clarinet once in band, and she said there were too many keys on the clarinet. So she joined the pep squad or something. So yeah, I mean, my mom says that I could sing before I could talk. I don't know how that works, but she said that's how that happened. And I grew up doing school choir and stuff. I actually, I got into theater when I was 13, I think. It was my eighth grade year of middle school. And I actually started doing shows at the Woodlawn Theater, which is down
right next door.
Yeah, it's like
Whoa.
two
Full
doors
circle.
over. Yeah, owned by a very different person. It was under different management at that time. And yeah, I did theater there, and I got into a high school program for musical theater, and I thought that's what I was going to do. And then the scholarship packages and stuff came in, and I was like, great. And then like the total cost of living came in, and I was like, not great. And so I stayed. Yeah, I was gonna go to like AMDA in New York, and then I saw how much it was gonna cost, and I was like, oh. And then there's Berkeley College. They're like, you could do this for songwriting. And I was like, cool. How much are you giving me? They're like, nothing. And it's in Boston, so
that sounds
good luck.
super familiar to my experience with Berkeley.
So I like telling people that I got into Berkeley. I didn't go to Berkeley, but I mean, most people don't graduate from Berkeley, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, I feel like that's the way people get what they need and then they leave.
Yeah, they get the connections, and that's it.
Yeah.
And the computer, because they like make you buy a MacBook. As that was part of the package.
Yeah, I remember. That was way back in my day too.
Yeah. So yeah, I went to school here for like sacred music because that's the degree that they had, and ended up doing like some composition and stuff. Mostly wrote like musical theater style things and a cappella things, and fell into open mic because of T. Yeah.
Cool. Because of what?
T.
T?
Yeah. Actually got the job because of
Because of
the
T.
guy who went to China to teach English as a second language. He was an RA at my college, and I knew another RA, and he invited me. I guess the guy who went to China invited both of us over for tea, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. I like tea. And then it was like a whole, like, it was like actual tea, from the old tea place that we used to go to. And so, yeah, that's how I knew him. He worked at the tea place, and I ended up, my mom actually met the owner of the place, the store that the tea shop was inside of. And they were like, oh, yeah, we're looking to hire some people. And my mom was like, I know someone who needs to be hired. And
Gotcha.
so that's how I got that job.
Gotcha. And Aaron, what was your first open mic?
My first open mic?
Yeah, your first experience with open mics.
So I think actually the first open mic I went to was the one I met you at.
Was that the very first one?
That was the first open mic I ever went to. And that's when I met you.
That explains so many things.
Yeah.
Destiny.
That's why I was very uncultured.
Gotcha.
At that moment. That was, I literally was trying to push myself. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to this one at the Evil Olive. I've met the person that runs it, Robin, a couple times. He's a pretty cool guy.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to that one. And I met you there. That was the first one.
That's crazy.
I was going to a bunch of open mics after that because I was like, okay, open mics are good experience. So I can honestly say, I know there's probably some people that have had a bad experience at their first open mic, but mine was great. And I didn't really have a bad experience for a while after that. There were I had a couple of bad experiences at, but honestly, open mics were, mostly positive from the beginning for me.
That's awesome. And that's actually a huge reason why I'm doing this personally, is because things that I've started to hear more often now that I'm a little bit more blue collar in my part of my music career. I still write like crazy, and I want people to hear the songs that I've written. But in San Antonio, these 5 years, I've been just saying yes to everybody who will give me a gig to pay my bills. I got a wife and a kid, and that's important to me. And so I say yes, and I wish I had been more like you, Justine, and said yes to say yes. I wish that a need hadn't forced me to be that way. And I see the value in that attitude now, but I had to go there because I was selfish like everybody else, and was just like, okay, I have to play covers, or I have to go play lead for this country band, or I have to go play lead for this Tejano band. And now my attitude is completely changed. But the thing that I've noticed is talking to more and more blue collar musicians on a regular basis, and more venue owners, just because you just want to talk to older folks as you get older. And that's who I hang out with these days. I hear this negative kind of perception being pushed, like, oh, there's only amateurs at open mics for musicians. And it's the way it's said, because I don't think there's any shame in being amateur, because that's a step on your path. That's everybody. But the way it's said is very like derogatory, or however you want to describe it. It's like throwing shade. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is because it's such a good tool. The people that I see really get this, no matter how old they are, is poets and comedians never stop going to work out new material, where I see a lot of ego in music, like a whole bunch more than I see. And it's just like, I see guys, they win awards routinely in comedy on a national level, go to little open mics to work out new jokes, you know? And I think that one of the reasons I'm here is to make sure that the songwriters that I come in contact with maintain that perspective of like, even when I get comfortable on stage, this is a place where I can go work out songs, and just keep telling the younger people that that's a thing that they can do to work out their stage fright and work out songs. And the other negative I hear is really just like a fact of life. A lot of open mics exist because that's the slow night of the week at the venue, and the venue needs something there, and they give open mics a shot, and people like, okay, let's do an open mic and throw it together. And so I want to promote San Antonio open mics, so maybe those slow nights become not the slowest night, and then venue owners want to do them, and then they start collaborating on promotions, and so much of that has to do with attitude of the people who are hosting and the people who are going. And if somebody's out there promoting these open mics, that makes it easier, makes it better to have a positive perspective on the whole thing. So me personally, that's super important. I'm glad you brought out like the fact that you had your first experiences were positive and you didn't have any negative ones later. Yeah. Sorry.
Until later.
Yeah, until later. Yeah. Justine is actually the person that really made me figure out why I want to do this, and
yes.
I really
Can
appreciate it.
Can I say
Yes.
what your original reason for doing this
Yeah,
was?
please.
Because we've been trying to work on, when you told me that you wanted to make a podcast, first of all, I was in an HEB and it was very loud, and I was like, what? I said what for, both reasons. I couldn't hear you, and also like, of all the things that you had been saying yes to, and all the gigs that you have been, every time I talked to you, it was like, oh yeah, I picked up this thing. Oh yeah, I got this thing. Yeah, I'm going to go do this for this person and run sound and stuff. And you're like, I'm going to do a podcast. Like, are you sure? Do you have the time? And so, I asked you, well, why are you doing it? And you said that it's something that you could do, like something that you're good at. And something you could do, like, I think you said like easily. You didn't say easily specifically, but
something I have everything that I need.
Yeah, you
to
had the
do
resources
it.
to do it, and you would be good at it. And I was like, okay, but why are you doing this? And it took a little bit of prodding to get you to answer, like, why open mics? Why are you focusing on open mics, besides it's something you know a lot about?
Yeah. I'm grateful for the prodding, because I needed to get there, and
Yeah,
thanks for leading me there. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it helps. It comes from a more genuine intention when you know what the purpose is. And people are like, oh, find your purpose or whatever, but like it's really important to know what the value is of doing something like this, because there are a billion podcasts out in the world, and most of them are garbage. And so ideally ours will not be.
They're
we'll
all
find
garbage
out,
at the beginning, and we'll work that out. It's fine.
but I think the ones that succeed are the ones that are genuine, and the ones that come from people who have something to share, or they want something to be shared with people. And it's not about ego or like talent or anything like that. Like the people who succeed don't do it just because, like, oh, I'm good at talking. Like, yeah, I mean, ideally, everyone is.
Right.
Not me.
Well, you still have time to practice. So yeah, once you actually answered the question, I was like, okay, this is like, I can get behind this.
Hey.
Yeah. So that's why I'm here. I really think that open mics get a bad rap. And like you said, a lot of people look down on it like it's like amateur night, which first of all, so what if it is? What if it was? Everyone starts somewhere, like anybody who's ever been good at something was an amateur at some point or another. Like anybody who says differently is bullshitting. I don't know if we can curse in this. So
No, absolutely.
okay, great. I've been testing the waters.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I lost my train of thought. Bullshit.
That's okay because I haven't.
That's fine.
A real quick tangent.
Yeah.
Just for anybody who catches wind of this and is just starting out, she hit a really good point when she said just starting out. And we talked about earlier not being ashamed of being amateur. There's another thing here, though. Like, I find more increasingly, again, that's why I'm doing this, because technology creates a certain amount of isolation. And in that isolation, there's a certain amount of expectation that's perceived. And I find a lower and lower percentage of people who are not trying to make their name in music. Music should bring joy to your life or should be some sort of emotional outlet. If you're doing this and it's fun and you haven't started trying to get famous or get big, it probably is what it's supposed to be in your life. And if it's not, and you want to make it something different, you might make a go out of it. I encourage you to take that journey because you're going to learn something from it. With that being said, if you get through that journey and you're deep into that journey and it's not making you happy, change your relationship with the art that you make, because it should either make you happy doing it or the outlet should get stress out of your life. And if you're trying to make it something that it's not, then you're doing it wrong. Like, you don't have to be famous. You don't have to have a TikTok account with 80 million followers. You don't have to have millions of subscribers on YouTube.
Million.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't use TikTok. 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 I don't use that. Anyways,
I would
get
call
off
it
my lawn.
I would say the tiki-taki.
Yeah, but the point being, that make sure you've right-sized your relationship with it. There's a guy in town I always come back to because I have a whole new part of my game. I never used to write folk. One of the first people I've heard perform here is a guy by the name of Greg Bourbonnais. He runs the service department at the... He has no ambitions to be famous, yet he is so good that me, who grew up wanting to be famous when I was a kid, and is doing this because I fell in love with it and really taking an obscene amount of, and eventually a toxic amount of pride in only doing this for a living, I have a whole new part of my game. The folk part of my game stems from how beautiful his performances are, and that he, just a person I know off the street in San Antonio, has influenced me heavily. I have a whole record that I have written that I'm going to put out that is heavily influenced by a guy who runs. His relationship with music makes him happy, so he makes his wife happy, so he's a better dad, and so on and so forth. And that's kind of my example, is like, you don't have to like start this out and be like, okay, I'm going to make a run at this. If you want to, enjoy the journey and learn what there is to learn. But don't stress out if like you don't get the ideal amount of followers. Like, create and perform and enjoy that, and keep the relationship what it's supposed to be in your life. What is, you referred to, like, you know, you had bad experiences later. Like, what? Give me one bad experience you had.
I mean, I'm not going to name any names, but
Please
I will
don't.
be specific about the place we were at. We were at the Cove, and it was one specific host who was hyper obsessed about, number one, pushing their own music out there, but not really caring about anybody else.
Wow.
Like, they were they were pushing their CDs and playing more music than other people when the list was full, being obnoxious towards people that weren't doing well on stage in their opinion, and just all around being pushy and negative. And that's not what you're supposed to do as a host. You're not there to promote yourself. You're there to learn and, you know, network. And and play your music that you just wrote, or be an amateur. Like it's
even if you do promote your own music, like as long as it serves like making a welcoming community. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, I don't care if you promote your own music. Please do. If you're a host and you have CDs, promote your own stuff. But when you're playing extra songs over other people and the list is already long and you're shortening other people's sets because you don't like their music or you want to promote yourself, that's not okay. Or if you go to an open mic and you don't want to, or you treat someone differently or don't want to put them on stage because you don't like their act. I get it if they're cursing or something like that, and it's a place that doesn't need that kind of stuff, and you know they're going to do it, I can understand.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it just because of your opinion, that's wrong. Like, everyone should have a chance to, one, get better, and two, express themselves.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to fastball Justine. Justine has to go. This is like our test run. Justine has to go, so we're going to fastball her on stuff you probably will hear at the end of every podcast. At least 2 of these 3. Okay, what was your favorite open mic experience?
Favorite open mic experience?
She's like, my own. I'm just kidding.
My God, I don't. Well, I haven't been to an open mic besides summer camp in a long time because COVID and we got busy. It wasn't an open mic. It was
Awesome.
it was my class. So backstory: I was also a teacher for a couple years during COVID. So it was like
all of you teachers.
It was like 3 years, but it was also like a billion years. Like I should get my pension now. But I taught theater for 3 years, and during one of the classes, we had kind of like an open mic. It was mostly like karaoke and stuff, but people like could just go up, and really like every day was kind of like open mic in those classrooms, especially like my advanced theater class, and just some of the things that kids would create were just incredible, and some of the like devised theater pieces and like improv scenes that kids would do, they were so smart and like so nuanced and beyond what, like, if you've never met a middle schooler, like you wouldn't believe that these
That's
kids
amazing.
were like
Heck yeah.
12, 13
That's
years old.
Awesome.
And so we ended up doing a unit on sketch comedy because of that.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Remind me about this because we have an idea to talk about later that Queen Bree, local San Antonio artist, gave me.
I love Queen Bree.
Yeah, me too. She's a wonderful person.
Fantastic.
And she gave me an awesome idea regarding the open mic that we need to talk about later.
Okay.
This is a hard question, so feel free to just give me one that you like. But what is your favorite artist right now?
Oh, God. My favorite artist right now. God, I've been listening to so much NPR. I've been listening to music in a while.
It's okay.
I mostly listen to musical theater cast recordings. I will say it's probably like between Beach Bunny and San Fermin right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Beach Bunny is pretty awesome. We've seen them in concert. That's kind of like John and my band.
Gotcha.
We've seen
I
them like
understand.
3 times since we started dating. 3 or 4 times.
Punch Brothers is me and Linda's band. That's awesome. And the last taco you will ever eat, what is on it?
I had this really good. God, it sounds so like terrible to say. I'm brown, but like I had this taco at a food truck outside of Philo Coffee or Philosophy, because it's the soft C or whatever. And I don't know what the name of the food truck was. I don't know who they are. I don't know if they still exist, but they had like a salmon taco with like a mango salsa, and it was like the best thing I'd ever. There was more to it, like I don't know what else there was, but I remember the mango salsa and the fish, and like that was the coolest thing. It was like the best tasting taco I've ever had, and if it wasn't for that taco, then it would be Al Pastor tacos from La Feria del Taco.
There you
on
go.
San Pedro.
There you go. Okay. Well, you can leave because we've had you 10 minutes longer than.
Jeff,
Yeah,
I'm coming.
Jeff, you gotta go save Jeff.
Gotta take her to the eye doctor now.
Hopefully, it's a small rep day on the getting the cat into the kennel front.
Yeah, to backtrack a little bit, so the point of what we're doing this podcast for is we plan on bringing our favorite open mic hosts and open mic hosts or just people in general that we think are influential on open mics in general in this city to get their opinion and also to help people get out of their box. You know, we're also going to be sending some people that have never been to open mics before to open mics just to get their opinion on it and to see how they view open mics from a separate standpoint.
Yeah. So, yeah, for hosts and guests for sure, and there's definitely going to be some specialty episodes. Thank you for that. Is there anything else you want to say on any subjects? I think we hit everything I wanted to hit today, except for we haven't done your fastball 3.
I think we did everything.
Cool. Okay, so, all right, what is your favorite open mic experience? Either on stage or hosting or just watching. What is your favorite thing that's happened?
To be honest, I was at a real low place before I met you, man. So that open mic really kind of changed my attitude and what I wanted to do, kind of changed my life.
I was not planning to cry on this episode.
You know,
so
I
we're
gave
not
up
playing
on
that game today.
I gave up on a lot of bad habits because of that open mic, man. That one, and honestly, Hondros before COVID was some of the most fun I've had. You know, and but it is one of my favorite open mics to go to.
For the record, I love Alex Roga. That man is awesome. All right, what is your favorite artist right now? I know this changes all the time for you. So who's your favorite right now? Any kind of art whatsoever.
Currently, it's the Shears Twins. I'm very obsessed with Puzzles, with Enjoy, and with The Garden. 3 bands that basically make up 2 people.
Cool. And what's on your last tacos, sir?
Oh, man. I mean, I'm white, but I'm not basic.
All the qualifications today.
I don't know, man. My favorite taco that I've ever had is there's all different kinds of al pastor tacos. My favorite is the pastor with pineapple on it. So if my last taco, if I were to have a last taco, it would be pastor with pineapple.
Very, very cool. Okay. Thank you for whoever ends up listening to this. This is our first episode. This is a test run, and we are your hosts, Justine Walgren Del Toro, Aaron Bacafer. I'm Joshua Ray Summey. Just because I haven't hit this, I'm a singer-songwriter in Texas. I've been doing it since I was 12. I'm 39. Played for a lot of bands and played in a lot of states and a couple different countries, and I didn't have the opportunity to go to many open mics in my time in New Orleans, which was a long time. And then moving here, I was reacquainted with them and reminded of how much I love them. And that eventually led us down, through working with Aaron and Justine, led us down this road to where we are right now. Favorite open mic experience? Honestly, from the bottom of my heart, is every Tuesday night at the Pigpen. John Whipple has been at it for a long time and creates the kind of community that I want to create at my open mic, which is Wednesdays at summer camp. You'll never feel unwelcome there unless you're made to feel unwelcome by somebody who comes in that isn't a part of the community. And I don't mean to say that they blocks anybody out. They absolutely don't. It's just that if there's a negative vibe in there, somebody brought it in. John's community that he's built around that open mic over years, from way, way back in the day when they had, apparently 14 years ago, it was at Almost Pharmacy before it was at the Pigpen. And it's just a wonderfully welcoming place to be, and I always leave there filled with joy. I don't have a favorite moment because every Tuesday I go to that place, I leave filled up and ready to take on the rest of the week. My favorite artist right now, that's really, really hard because I go back and forth between people I've just heard of and then go back to my old standbys. I'm always on somebody who changed my perspective for the better. And the most recent one was when my daughter was 1 and I got to see Madison Cunningham in 2016. Or I guess she was only 6 months old. In 2016 in Charleston, South Carolina. I didn't know who she was. I was going to see the Punch Brothers, and it was an amazing show. And Madison Cunningham, with nothing but a guitar in her hand, blew my mind, and I've been a huge fan for the last however long that's been. I can't math today. My last taco would be corn tortilla, Very salty, garlicky aioli mixed one part with one part of Valentina, smothered all over the bottom of it with barbacoa and lime juice and onions and cilantro, would be my last taco. And they would be tiny, and it would be like 17 of them as opposed to like a big one.
That is a wild taco. That actually sounds good.
I used to like cooking before doing it for festivals in festival season in New Orleans. I know how to make something. You put like a little tiny dot of honey on there in the middle for a surprise. And that's what would be on my last taco. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We will name this podcast, and I will put that in the notes. You're going to hear, I will tell you who you've been listening to underneath and give you a list of San Antonio open mics that we know about after the edit. That will be coming up next. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Who's Next SATX. If you're looking for an open mic in San Antonio, you can find one.
Sundays at 502 in the Amp Room.
Monday at Fitzgerald's.
Tuesday at the Pigpen Bar Ludovine and George's Keep.
Wednesday at Dulce Sueños, the Dakota East Side Ice House, and Blaine's Bar.
Thursdays at Hondro's, Web House, and the St. Anthony Hotel.
And Fridays and Saturdays, go support your local artist.
For a full list of open mics, please follow Who's Next SATX on Instagram and Facebook, or visit who'snextsatx.com. What did the cat say to the other cat?
What?
Nothing, I'm just kidding.